everyone, I'm Cassidy Jensen, a licensed professional counselor.
And I'm Grace Allspaw, a licensed marriage and family therapist. And we are both owners of our own therapy practices and passionate about the world of therapy.
This is Two View Therapy, the podcast, a show where we will explore popular shows, hot topics in today's culture, relational struggles, and family dynamics.
Join us for your weekly session.
Because if nothing changes, nothing changes.
2, 1. And it's already this. Good morning. Hello. Welcome back.
Episode 2 of season 2.
Jesus Christ.
Hopefully you can hear us because our internet's a little
Choppy
questionable.
again. It only seems to be choppy. I don't know if it's this program or Quash, but
Who knows?
it gives us a run for our money.
How are you?
I'm okay. I'm ready to be.
Yes. While we're recording this, the weather outside's crummy and cold and kind of rainy and gross.
Icy, misty. I want cozy socks.
We're flashing again.
God. I
Wonder what that means.
Maybe they just might die. Let's
Let's
keep
test
going.
it. All right.
Our microphones. We don't have our stuff together still.
We don't. But intro to today, we're going to talk about Devastation.
Devastation. Yes. I came up with this because last week was just a week full of news. I noticed I had body reactions. The week, really, it was January, I think. We, are coming down from the holidays and the excitements or the anxieties and the stress of being around family or to see family. And then we were trying to get back into routine. We had snow days. We had extra days off with kids. But January felt like 2 months.
Well, and then we're not going to get political, but there's a lot been happening in the political world.
Right. And regardless, I think people are feeling that we have big changes and nobody knows what that's going to look like.
Yeah. And then in our area, there was some big devastation with a plane crash.
Yes. The flight to DC.
Yeah.
I was telling you yesterday, I was really worried one of my clients' husbands was on that flight. So just the whole time, as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And just was like in my own little bubble. Plus, it just felt personal. You had a lot of the U.S. figure skaters we found out, and I had just watched a lot of their performances because one of my sons is big into hockey, so we were talking about ice skating. Of course, it was a big deal for our area, and just, I don't know, the excitement of seeing who could be in the Olympics. So I was like, I feel like I personalized it. I was like, I just saw you guys, like you were in my turf. This was from our area, and then that happened.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
And then you also have all of the wildfires in California. Kind of just snowing in Florida. So just kind of different sides of the spectrum.
So much happening.
Yeah. And even as I talk about it, it's just like I have to take a deep breath.
We deal with grief a lot in our offices, regardless of if it's death, but just grief in general.
Loss.
I think loss. Yeah. And my dad posted the other day, and when I saw it, I was like, oh, he's so right. He said, there are going to be tragedies that have no explanation. Be mindful that your presence is more important than words. That just like as this is going and people don't know what the heck's happening. I mean, California, that's a huge deal. People are losing homes and
They
so
lost
displaced. And even if we backtrack, I know we've talked about this, but in Florida, there were so many people displaced and lost everything.
Well, that was like old news. So I was having this conversation with my mom last night about what I'd like to talk about, what we should talk about. Yeah, my own personal feelings of just, in this side of the therapeutic chair, like we are hearing more often than not, just like everybody's shit storms.
Yeah.
On top of just everything. And sometimes it becomes overwhelming. But where was I going with that? Oh, yeah. Talking with my mom about it, about It seems like it's so much sometimes.
These are off.
Well, I guess we'll just see what happens.
Do we need to change that?
Let me see. Sorry, guys. Microphone issues. Oh, nope, it's swapped to the intro.
Okay, hopefully you guys have been able to hear us this whole time.
Yeah, okay. Well,
sorry, go back.
We might sound a little tinny. Yeah, my microphone's at home. So almost how we get a little desensitized or numbed because we're just constantly bombarded with one major thing after the next. And it's an instant reporting. It's an instant, this is happening. Yeah. So yeah, Florida's long gone.
Well, it's at the tip. Like everybody just picks up their phone and the tragedy is shared with them.
Yeah.
And so it's one thing after the other, but then you ignore the stuff before. That doesn't mean it's not still impacting others.
Right.
But it's not the forefront of your mind because it's not your space.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom and I had a similar conversation of just anytime there's an election year, I think stresses are high for people.
Yes.
And I think Mom and I had both kind of forgotten it was election year. Like the whatever it is where people vote. What's that called? Whatever that day is. Voting day?
Election day?
Election day. Wow. Woo, okay. Election day happens and you figure out who the new president is. And I've experienced this every year where like, okay, we have a new president and then I kind of move on. But that's not the case for a lot of people.
I think right now, no.
I think I've had to tell myself in those situations, like, I can't change it. So why focus on it for so long?
I'm a dweller.
You're a dweller?
Yeah.
I can't be because it'll consume me.
Yeah, I ruin my time a lot.
Yeah. That's where this conversation started with my mom as well of like, she said, did you see the stuff about, it was something else. Maybe it was like, I don't remember. She said something like, did you see something? Did you see anything about this? And I was just so clear and was like, yep, but I can't focus on it. And I changed the subject because it'll increase my anxiety.
Yeah.
I'll become fearful of things that I don't need to be focused on.
That's fair.
5-10 years ago, I would have focused on it and it would have consumed me and I would have wasted time that I could have used elsewhere.
I spent the next day, because that was, I don't know what day that was.
The fight?
Yeah, I spent the next day just like I woke up early, turned on the news, wondered what happened next, who all did they find, did they get more information. I just kept scrolling and like checking every news article as it came out.
Yeah. I saw two things about it that I just briefly looked at. And one was, I think the day of, or maybe the morning after, where it said like 23 confirmed deaths.
Oh, yeah.
And then I saw another thing that said there were no survivors. Is that correct?
There were no survivors and they finally got everybody out of the river.
Okay. Those were the only two things I saw. And
there were 67 deaths.
Wow. Yeah, it is. It's horrible. It's a tragedy that can't be explained, that there's no explanation for. There's no justification. There's no closure with that.
Right.
And so my hope for people in situations like that is that they're able to process and grieve, that it's not in their control. They've lost someone, or there's now a new fear of flying, or whatever that might look like.
Yep. I've had a couple of clients bring that up. Like, ooh.
I told my supervisor, I maybe saw her like 2 or 3 days after that, and we briefly talked about it, and I said, if I focus on this, I won't fly again. Like, I know that about myself, and so I like to travel, so I'd like to be able to fly again.
Box yourself.
Yes. I think there's a balance of you and I, where I ignore it and you look further into it, where there can be this balance of like, okay, I want to understand, I want to be educated. and know what's going on with the people in this area, because we're close enough to Wichita that we could have clients who are impacted by this.
That's what I was worried about. Actually, what I really kind of wanted to do and what I want to look into more, because the news was talking about there was crisis counseling offered at the airport, and it kind of made me want to look into what are my options to become a counselor in these supportive situations, whether it be locally or even on a national scale. And that goes back to the hurricanes in North Carolina. I think there were some easier ways to get licensed or like
state.
Yeah, to help and assist there.
Yeah. Oh, Yes. I think part of the tragedy of our licensure is that it's limited to states at this point.
Yeah, where are they at on that whole?
I have no idea.
My supervisor was well versed and all of that, but I don't think Kansas was part of it.
Oh, you're right. I don't think Kansas was. I wish it was, because
I think it was like,
okay, that's a decent chunk.
Yeah.
I wonder if you get licensed in one of those, it then spreads.
I thought that's what they were trying to do. So you will be a part of that I don't know, partnership or whatever. Yeah.
And then you could have Kansas separate from that.
Potentially, I suppose. Yeah. I don't, why are we state by state?
Because they all have different requirements.
Yeah.
And I can't talk. But yeah, back to, I think there's a balance between how you and I cope.
Yeah. I just feel it in my body. So
yeah, which isn't.
No, I really need to do something about that.
But it's also not good that I avoid. So
yeah, yin and yang.
Yeah. So even with this isn't really what we're talking about, but devastation of like school shootings, the fears of planes crashing and natural disasters, hurricanes, tornadoes, wildfires, all the things. I've sat with clients and helped work through for myself even, and like I'm hearing it as I'm talking about it, and then also sitting with clients and hoping they're hearing that, like, what's in your control, what can you manage, how can you support people who've been affected by this, but also not letting it deter you from living your life as well.
Yeah, well, and I think that might be one of these big things we think about with this year is control. What's in our locus of control? I have to talk to myself about this quite a bit and bring it back down to a minute, small little chunk.
I just said to a couple this week, it sounds like you guys are trying to control the other one. That's a lot of pressure. And in these situations, we want to control.
Yeah, we want to find something to hold on to.
Yes. But that, in my experience, doesn't go well. Of trying to,
I feel like we're always, how I feel is like there's always a mess that I'm trying to clean up and I can never quite finish it.
I like how you just said that.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's how it feels.
Makes sense. So for you, sitting with clients through tragedy and devastation that you can't predict, what's your movement with them?
Well, I mean, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
How do we let go? How do we find some inner peace? I like to focus on like what's going well. What are some things to look forward to? Like amongst all this shit, because of course we're going to get a lot of the negative thrown at us.
Yeah.
Like I have so many people like trying to detox or from social media and get more into reading. So I like to have discussions on books or, how we can access more books and just kind of step back and get into our little worlds. I just think everybody needs to slow down. Like even thinking about when these like devastating things occur, like I saw it on my phone and then it was like, I need to keep up. Like, is this news source going to have like the latest update? And it's like, we don't have we play this like I have the information before you do. So people are going to tune in.
Well, even thinking about like, okay, have you seen any of the stuff on social media about like, too bad my brain can't tell the difference between a bear attack and someone telling me no.
Yeah.
Or whatever, like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain can't always tell the difference between if this tragedy happened to you or if it's actively happening or if it happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're constantly consuming things on social media that's saying to you, 63 people, 67 people died.
Mm-hmm.
Well, your system floods.
Yep.
And so if you're constantly consuming that, your body is in a hyper-aware state constantly.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to come down from that at some point. And so, yes, being in the loop and understanding and being aware, one, to just know what our world's going through. What are these people that maybe we don't know anybody?
Yeah.
Maybe we do. But also not letting it dictate your life.
Yeah, I think I struggle with finding that balance because I am an empath and I take on everybody's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I just feel bummed and sad.
Yeah,
a lot.
You know, I was talking to my parents about the plane crash, and just briefly, because again, I want to just put my head in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
A gal that I've probably known my whole life, my parents have known many years. She's a Wichita girl and has a very professional career, and so she travels some for that.
Yeah.
And was supposed to be on that flight, and last minute had to redirect to another state. And my parents were like thinking about, oh my gosh, how close someone we care about was, and then thinking all these people have lost.
Yeah.
You know?
Uh-huh.
So to be in that and sit with that discomfort, like, oh, there's tragedy, there's sorrow here, and also regulating.
Well, yeah. I think that's the
happen.
tricky balance, too, of so often it's like, well, at least, because we had the Philadelphia one right after that. But then, like, that's there. So, like,
it doesn't hit home quite as much, probably.
No, but also, it's just like, there was like a little girl that just had spine surgery or something. And everybody on that flight is dead.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of like, at least that's not mine, but also like that person would have been on the flight. So then we also personalize things even more in some instances.
Mm-hmm.
Gnarly. I've been really trying to focus on like some deep cleansing breaths.
I know it sounds a little crazy, but breath work is good for us.
I was just talking with a client this morning. I noticed she was sitting tense, overwhelmed. You can just see when somebody's doing more chest breaths, they're just a little bit more closed off. And I was like, let's talk about breathing. And she adjusted and took some deep breaths. And I have to do that sometimes with clients that are just like, with all of their stuff. Sometimes I just want to be like, whoa, hold up.
I love to say, all right, just for a minute, let's breathe.
Yeah.
Like, for just a minute, sit there, breathe. No words have to be said. No thoughts, just breathing.
Yeah.
You know, I have cold plunged off and on.
Mm-hmm. Are you back to that?
Yeah, I've done it here and there. I need to start doing it every day. Not right now, though, because I'm already wound up and that gives me a lot of energy. But I was telling my therapist about it. And she was like, well, that's good for you in general because you're breathing. Like, when you're in the cold plunge, you're supposed to be focused on your breath because...
Is that what it is?
Well, it'll knock the wind out of you, basically. Like, you feel like all your air's gone because it's so cold. So you're supposed to be...
How long are we supposed to cold plunge?
11 minutes a week is ideal.
How do you divvy time?
Well, when I was actively cold plunging every day, I was doing like 5 minutes at a time.
Okay.
So I was actually doing more than 11 minutes a week.
Mm-hmm.
But if you did like 3 minutes 4 days a week, that's 12 minutes. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I sometimes turn my shower down at the end to leave warm.
Close. You're getting there in a minute. It is really different. The shower annoys me more. Like, I've done a cold shower. I hate that every second of it.
I don't like it because I used to, as the youngest, I used to be the last to shower. And then sometimes we would run out of hot water.
So the cold plunge, when you get in and you don't move, you kind of forget you're cold for a minute because your body kind of creates this like wrap of heat around you.
Interesting.
It is interesting. And then you move and the cold hits you again. And you're like, oh, terrible. In the shower, it's constantly hitting you. It's like drilling you.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's terrible.
It is.
Yes.
Okay.
That'll make me angry. Yeah, every time.
Okay.
Well, you should do it. Would you like to come over and try it?
I might need to try that.
Okay. It's great.
Self-care morning. I got a coffee afterwards with breakfast.
Yes. Would you like to come over? We'll do that.
That sounds like a nice one.
Okay. Cold plunge and breakfast. I was going to, try and make a fun little
like a Netflix and chill.
Cold plunge and coffee.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. We'll plan that. Okay.
I like that idea.
That'll help our nervous systems with all the chaos.
Did you say with all the gas?
With all the chaos. Oh. It's like, what word did I say? One thing that I think, though, that I try and tell my clients when their nervous system is dysregulated, which is caused by things like disaster.
Yeah. Devastation.
Yes. The one thing that like I always recommend is slow down.
Yes.
Just slow down between two things, like going to get gas and going home after work. Slow down. You don't need to be in a rush. You don't need to be speeding.
I was like, I want to get all this shit out of the way. But then I'm buzzing.
Yes.
Can't relax.
Or even thinking walking through the grocery store. I think most people, they go in, they're out. Yeah. Well, slow down. Walk through the aisles like you're not on a mission that you're going to die if you don't complete in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Our bodies need that. Slow, relaxed.
And
there's also time for movement.
We need to go back to the thought process of 90s and 2000s. We had some internet, just enough to be like, it's tasteful, but we were not constantly glued to the phones because we just had basic phones to talk.
Have you ever seen the thing recently of getting flip phones?
Yes. So it's on my to-read list, Anxious Generation. But
I have that.
Yes, I have it because I got it as an Audible credit.
Maybe
but I need to read it.
Better.
Yes. But he's trying to do this movement with teens of like, let's go to flip phones and see what happens. And they're more creative. They're spending more time doing things.
Social?
Yeah. One of the teens in an interview was talking about how they spend like 10 hours a day. And I was like, what in the actual
on their phones?
Fuck are you doing?
So, okay. I had a client come in and I think I saw them at like 11 a.m. Okay. Which, if you wake up, you might have to do some math here with me. If you wake up at 6 a.m. And it's 11, how many hours is that? Okay. By that point, they'd already been on their phone 8 hours. So do that math for me. They'd stayed up past midnight, slept for like 2-3 hours, and then were up again on their phone.
Well, it means 3 o'clock. Or they were, I don't know. What kind of sleep are they getting? People are reporting better sleep with flip phones.
The other night, I was so tired and I've been reading before bed. And instead of that, I put, like, before I even walked in my room, I had my alarm set on my phone. So I walked in, plugged it in, laid down, and I slept way better. Because normally I do a little like scroll on my phone. I read, I scroll on my phone. Let me just check a few things. I'm like, let me check email. Let me check my work email. Let me check that. Because I know I'm like, I shouldn't be on my phone too much. And then I'm just like, well, let me just peruse Instagram. And I'm like, damn it. And I think that's a good point. We're subject to do the same stuff. But that doesn't mean it's healthy.
No. Like, well, and I know I will doom scroll. I will just get sucked in to be mindless when more of this is going on.
Yeah.
It's easier to do.
Well, and it sounds like that's where you got some of your information about playing.
No, I was already on Facebook when I saw potential Wichita flight.
Yeah.
In
It's-
DC.
I have said to parents before in my office, like, get rid of the phone. And your kid's going to hate you for a minute. But, like, in the long run, you're going to get so much back.
Yeah.
Because it does consume. And it's so quick to get the information. And you just have the devastation right there. And it's a constant reminder.
Well, and the other side of the argument is things are different now, and I need to be able to reach them.
Well, turn off all the apps and stuff. That's,
I don't know, especially with the boys. Like, if anything, I think I want them to just have a phone. And that's all you need. You can call, you can text the old-fashioned way.
I have a friend who has 2 little kids, and they're little at this point. One's like kindergarten, the other one's still in daycare. But her and her husband told me, we'll never buy our kids electronics. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And I have a signed piece of paper that says, like, we will never buy our kids electronics. And they both signed it. Every once in a while I find it again and I send it to them. I'm like, hey, remember? Like, because once you start it, it's hard to.
It's addicting.
For us, too.
They want that, well, especially with the underdeveloped brain, they want that quick hit.
I just said to a couple last night, remind me how old you are? I knew I had an idea. And they said it, and I was like, so your brain's... Yeah. And they were like, not a flaw, but also awareness that this is the time to create the change.
Yeah.
Because now our brains are fully developed, which means the patterns are harder to break. Just probably why you suck into it and I avoid, because that's how we've done it, and our brain just goes there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, as my parents get older, I am definitely seeing more of their anxieties. Just growing up, I was like, where did this come from? But I'm like, yeah, it came from both of you. For sure.
Don't you love that? Being able to see things in a different light.
Yeah.
Probably part of the therapy brain.
Yeah. Yeah. It becomes exhausting, though.
The therapy brain?
No, just everything, all the time.
I actually went to therapy this morning. And I sat down and she's like, well, what would you like to focus on?
Yeah.
And I was like, there's too much. There's too much going on. There's too many things. I'm dealing with too much personally, professionally. Like, it's just
like different slaps.
Yes. And she's like, okay. It's just a lot. And then that's not even including any of the stuff with our world. Like, that's my stuff, you know? So then you add in the outside world that you can't control. I know that there needs to be focus on devastation so that it doesn't happen in the future, right? Like, what can you do to prevent things yourself or as a system as a whole? Safety with flights. How can we manage that better in the future? That kind of thing. But we live in a consuming world.
There's overconsumption.
I have a book that I've dabbled in, but I need to really invest in, called Scarcity Brain.
Oh, yes. Have you heard of it? Yeah, I think I started reading it.
Okay.
But he was kind of boring, so I need to get back into it.
But I bought it because social media has fueled some of it, but this constant need for more.
Yeah.
More information, more facts, more whatever, more stimulation.
Yes. These are my top 10 Amazon things for the week.
Yes.
Buy them.
Yes. And then when it comes to devastation and we see that, it's like more and more. I need to know why. I need to know how this happened.
Yeah, it's almost like this weird fix, but it's also shit that works.
Well, it's also jacking with your nervous system.
Yeah. Yeah. Dysregulation. Taking some deep breaths. Taking a step back. I think the easiest thing we can do is to distance ourselves, to slow it down. to read more books.
I think ultimately, even for you and I, because we're so opposite in this, goes back to our favorite little phrase. If nothing changes, nothing changes.
We wanted to say thank you for listening today. You can find our Instagram at 2View Therapy and view our merchandise through our Etsy shop at 2View Therapy.
Please rate, review, and subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. If you are in a mental health crisis, contact your local crisis center, or you can call and text 988.